Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the thrilling conclusion of episode 200 here. This is the third and final part of my discussion with Joey Steele. If you haven't tuned in to the first two parts, you really should before you listen to this one. You don't have to, but you should. There's a lot going on, and this is going to be a long episode in and of itself. But before I talk about this episode, I want to let you guys know of a couple codes in the description. The first one is for a sauna box. You can get your own personal sauna. I know it's summertime. I know it seems crazy to jump in the sauna. I honestly haven't yet this summer, but I'm very close. I'm very close to jumping in there and then taking a cold shower. It's really awesome. It's good for recovery and all that stuff. I hit a sauna after every time I go to the gym. And I have another code for the gym. If you are into Planet Fitness, you pay $1 and you can go to any Planet Fitness, which is another great thing. That's what I use, and Sauna Box is what I have. I wouldn't talk about it if I didn't have it. Sauna Box was not in stock for a long time, so I'm giving it a shout out because it just got back in stock. And aside from that, I want to let you guys know about Visible. Okay, Visible is a cell phone service, and they just partnered with Verizon Fios, so they're giving out this promotion, which is now, if you have Visible and Verizon Fios home internet, if you link your accounts, you get $15 off of your internet. I just did this. It's crazy, but if you use my code, you'll get a free month, and then you link the accounts, and then I think you have an unlimited cell phone plan for like $5 a month. It's crazy. You get to keep your phone number, and you use an eSIM, which takes like 2 minutes to set up. Like, you just download the app or whatever, use Wi-Fi, and boom, you have a new cell phone plan. It took me like 5 minutes. It also has an option if you're a traveler. There's like a global option. You pay like, I don't know, $10 a month if you're thinking about going overseas. I'm going to Sweden, so hopefully I don't have to do that, because $10 a month, that's a lot to me right now. But aside from those things, something that I forgot to do is I want to give a shout out to Lurking Class Skate Shop. I have a GoFundMe in there. They started construction on making the stage bigger. This is a really good problem to have if you are a DIY, all ages, no alcohol venue. If you need to make space, if you need to make a bigger space out of it, that's a really good problem to have. And it's really indicative of what the scene is down there at the bottom of Maryland. So click that link. Check out the Lurking Class Skate Shop if you're in a band and you want to look for a place to play on the road. This is the best place I love it. It's my favorite scene outside of being in the Brooklyn punk scene, which I have to shout out, obviously, because Joey's on the show. Now, what to expect from this episode? This is the conclusion, and in this episode is I kind of talked to Joey about his decision to part way. Oh, also, All Torn Up. We talk at the end of the episode about some shows at the end of June, which obviously already happened. So, but definitely go check out All Torn Up. Obviously, those links are always going to be in the description to the music, to Joey's bands. Apparently, his band Bowhead is going to be coming out with new music. That's what we heard in the last part of the episode. But this episode, what to expect from this episode? A lot, honestly. This is the longest, probably the longest part of the episode. And it got to a point where I don't really go off script too often. I kind of prepare for the show, and I really stick to those questions. And often I'm over prepared. Obviously my goal is to have a podcast that's around 30-45 minutes, much like a local set, and they turn into so much more. This one obviously turned into way more. But this last part, it sort of became a discussion with me and Joey, because we were talking about defining success within us, and even doing these like DIY podcasts, because that's what he did. And like I said, Joey is a dude. When I wanted to do something and I saw that he was doing it, that made it tangible for me. So that's why obviously I have him on. It's like a full circle moment for me. But he did that podcast for so many years, and I think he did over 400 episodes on it, so double the amount of episodes. He was very militantly every, I think Wednesday it was, and it would air on Real Punk Radio. It was just, he went so hard with it, but then after COVID, he made the decision to stop doing it, and it was kind of a big deal to those of us in the Brooklyn scene. And for those of us that were, kind of close to Joey, it was like, wow, this is a big deal, because he really put a lot into that. And so we talk about quitting, and we talked about success and having an impact, and what it means to have an impact, and the ideas behind, even though maybe we're not getting successful in the eyes of like the capitalist society, like what it means to be successful at something, we're still successful in our morality. Like, we're doing this to empower ourselves and to empower the people closest to us and to empower anybody that tunes in. And even though there aren't that many people tuning in, we're still trying to make an impact to, the people that we bring on the show and stuff like that. I started this show because I wanted someone to interview me about my band. And Joey was the first person to do that. And that was really it. I didn't have too many other experiences with that. And so I became what I wanted to have, if that makes sense. And I think that's why a lot of people, a lot of us artists are creating, because we're creating the art that we want to experience. So that's how these podcasts came about, and through community building and all the work that Joey was doing, we talked about hanging it up and still having an impact, and spirituality and positivity, and what we like and don't like about the punk scene, and we get really introspective, like what we like and don't like about ourselves. And we have some self-criticism. Joey is the way he self-criticizes is something that, like, it's odd, because you don't even really feel, he doesn't self-criticize himself in a way where you kind of feel bad. It doesn't invoke pity, because he's still empowered through it. It's very interesting to see and hear, and I hope you guys can pick up on that as well, because when I self-criticize, it's bad. I'm like, I feel really bad about myself, and I'm sure Joey does too on some level, but he achieves it in a way where he knows that, I don't know, I feel like he's doing it in a way that's positive. So it's kind of a weird paradox, because you're being negative about yourself, but in a positive way. That's why it's really hard to articulate and really hard to describe. But if you're here, you're tuned in, you're about to see it all go down. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting me for 200 episodes. If you've been here, whatever, if you want to continue to support me, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a comment, let me know what's going on in your world, and if this is making an impact for you. It's really great to hear. It's great to see. It helps us keep this thing going before it gets so daunting, because it's a lot of work to do this stuff. All right. I know I rambled on here, but this whole podcast today is going to be a lot of rambling. please stick with it for the long haul. I promise that it is very insightful. It is very perspective shifting. And I think it will really greatly be of value to you, whether you're listening to this on your commute or you're watching it on your other monitor or whatever. I don't care how or how you consume this podcast, but I care that you are doing it. So share it with your friends. I hope you had as much fun as I did. You definitely did not have as much fun as I did. But anyway, without further ado, let's jump into this show. But I want to just say again, thank you so much for being a part of the Part-Time Artist podcast for 200 episodes. I wanted to say 200 years. Feels like 200 years. It's only a little over 10. But thank you guys so much for being here with me. I appreciate it. Joey, we've talked a lot about the past. We've talked a lot about what you're doing now. We've talked a little bit about dispatches and also the community work that you've been doing, or rather you were doing in Brooklyn and Punk Island and stuff like that. When did you know that it was time to take a step back? When did you know it was time to like hang it up, to step away from the dispatcher stuff, to step away from the promoting, to step away from, that kind of scene?
Yeah, it's a good question and a terrible question, Roger, because I never really thought of myself as stepping back. I always thought of myself as stepping forward to something else.
Okay.
So, I think in reality it was, a lot of it had to do with the pandemic. And so there wasn't a whole lot of choice to a lot of it. And I'm not a young man, and I wasn't a young man when I started making punk music, really. I didn't start I wasn't in punk bands until I moved to New York.
Right.
So I would write punk tunes. I would do some stuff with my friends back in high school, but not really seriously. And we would fuck around in college, but it wasn't serious. So I wasn't really in serious punk bands writing serious music until later in my life. So I think All Torn Up is coming up on 2008. I think we met. So almost 20 years together. But when did I decide to change the things I was doing?
Let's rephrase the question so it's not as sad. Let's say, when did you decide to step into a new path? I'll say.
No, I think it's also a good question because I think it is a little sad. It was hard for me to walk away. It was so hard for me to walk away from dispatches. I loved it and I hated it. And it was exhausting and resource intense and not doing anything. No one was listening. No one gave a shit. And I hated the promotion side of it. I hated trying to figure out how to promote people to listen to it. I'm like, people don't want to listen to it. They have been telling me now for 10 years they don't want to listen to it. No one's listening. So why do I need to keep making this? I travel the world with bands and I get people coming up to me every so often. They're like, I really miss Dispatches. I loved that show. All around the world, people tell me. So that is heartwarming, but it's ones of people. It's not lots of people.
I know what you mean.
So I think I didn't want to spend my life wasting it on something no one cared about. So I decided that people didn't care about the things I was doing and then I wanted to go do something else. So I stopped doing dispatches. It still to this day plagues me. I still have my episodes up in the world, and I know I just need to take them down, and not because it doesn't matter. No one's fucking hearing them, but it's hard to do that because I spent so much of my life doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was difficult. There was nothing. It was truly, it is one of my biggest character flaws. It is one of the reasons I have all the friends that I have. It is one of the reasons that propelled me down my political perspective. But I had an old comrade of mine, Bill, who taught me an absolute mountain of things about being a communist and a person. I loved him very dearly. And when he first decided to talk to me, he's like, Joey, the best and worst thing about you is that you are impatient. like you are
Wow.
difficult and stubborn
Wow.
and like I don't think that he's entirely right, but I definitely fucking don't know when to give up. And that's a horrible problem and a truly to tie it back into our previous conversation, a truly blessed attribute. Like I do not know when to give up, and it is a horrible it's truly a curse, a blessing and a curse.
Well, what's your zodiac sign? Everyone can figure you out.
Yeah, I'm in fucking not gonna answer that question, Roger. That's fucking ridiculous. But
But I know what you mean. It's a blessing and a curse to be like relentless, and the fact that you just won't let it go or give something up. Yeah.
It's horrible. It's a horrible attribute, and it's also something I love about me. So that was very difficult with dispatches. It was very difficult for stop doing shows. I don't do shows in New York anymore. I don't put them on anymore. Maybe once every few years, but I just wanted to do other stuff. I was a failure. I mean, ultimately, I decided I was a failure at those things, and so I said to myself, yeah. And so I said to myself, I just want to work on things that I can be successful at. I want to work on things that I need more, which was more so my personal relationships and things that I had sacrificed because I worked on. I mean, professional is not the word because there was never positive money being made, but like, there was always money lost, but it was like community building things. I feel like I was successful at community building things, but nobody wanted my shit. So it was like, all good. It's all good. I can't get this to the place I want it to be. I want to work on things that I need more, which is more music, which is more writing, which is more personal relationships, which is more intense political work on my own. And it's still really sad for me. It's taken me a long time. I'm still not over it. I'm still like, it's still really sore.
Well, you're not going to let it go. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's what you would have to do ultimately, right? Like, which is,
yeah.
So that's your Achilles heel. So it's so interesting that you said that, because I was just, my notebook's all the way over there, but I was writing in my like pseudo diary. It was just like a composition book that I write in every now and then. And I wrote something that like had me kind of sit back and really ponder, because I was writing about what my band, what my band War Park, which is the one band that I'm in that tours and plays out and stuff like that. And I was and I wrote something like, I think we're starting to figure out how to be successful with our given situation. And it caused me to like stop, because it feels like most of us, and I've always thought about this, where it's like something is either successful or it's not, like it's black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of us artists and creative people will also naturally, like this is human nature, will be looking over the fence at someone else's lawn or what someone else has going, and then it'll shift our perspective on what is and isn't successful. And I think like, man, if more people could come to that place, and it took me forever, and I always felt like a failure too at everything. And even and the reason I asked this question too is because I did a podcast recently. And I was working with, I have a YouTube coach, because I really wanted to like make this work. And my YouTube coach I had one YouTube channel that I was putting the podcasts out. I was putting out some like empowerment videos, and I was putting out some of my own music. And then it got to a point where this guy was like, look, you're giving YouTube so much different kinds of data that the algorithm doesn't know who to give your shit to. So long story short, I came to this crossroads where it was like, I have to make new YouTube channels for the different kinds of content that I was putting out.
Oh,
and it caused me, it caused me, in order for it to like really continue, which is basically like, you got to start over. And it was one of those moments where it caused me to really examine what I was doing with this podcast and how much of an effort, and nobody knows, unless you're a podcaster, the fucking effort it takes. And I just remember I did this episode and I edited the whole thing in one day, and I edited all the audio and put in the music and got that out. But of course, with YouTube, I had to then match that to the video and edit all the video. And then I had to come up with a thumbnail and all the description and, all the metadata and stuff. And it ended up taking me like over 3 hours, and my dumbass just kind of did it all at once, which don't ever do that. Take multiple days, take your time. But it got me to that point where I sat down and I'm just like, should I even be fucking doing this anymore? And then I really had to have that mirror moment where I like looked at myself and what I was doing. And I really had to talk with my dad. My dad actually had to talk me into not quitting and to actually start the new channel. And even still to this moment, honestly, this episode too was one of the big reasons for me to keep doing this, because I was like, episode 200's there, and I was like, who should I get on there? And I was just like, I should probably bring back the way it started, and it was just one. And the reason I asked you this question is because it's like that was a big moment for me, and I just wondered like where your head was at with coming to that decision. And like, even with the work you're doing now, do you still feel like, do you still feel good about it? Do you still feel like where your head is about it? So it feels like part of you is still like, man, I still love it, but like another part of you is probably like, I actually really love the other stuff I'm doing now, which is traveling and being a manager and being more hands-on and being more connected with people, if that's like the right way to assess what you're saying about it.
Oh, 100% no. I mean, I don't love what I do. It's very difficult, and I'm good at it. I'm a good organizer. I think the band I'm with is curating community, and I think they're doing some righteous things in the world. But it's not my music. It's not me. It's not who I am. It's not, it's not my politics. It's not. I care about them, and I'm happy to support them and have a job where I can work with in a field that I truly understand well,
right,
and.
Okay.
I have skills that I think I do this job very well. So I think it's good for everybody. I think it's good for the community. I think it's good for the band. I think it's good for me. It's like a mutually beneficial relationship, but it's not me. This is not my music. This is not my outlook. This is not my perspective. This is not the community that I would organize in the way that I would organize it. So no, I mean, I wish I could be doing other things 100%. There's no part of me where if I could get paid to do cop out, that I would turn that down. Like, I mean, if I could make a living doing cop out,
right,
I would be. There's no question about it. Al and I would be all in. There's not even a single hair in my body that would do that. But that's not going to happen. So I still got to have a job. I still got to make things happen, and I'm good at this. And I do think it's righteous to a point. So I think that's cool.
Well, it could happen if you want to start making TikToks, and if you want to start hopping on some dance trends, and getting your following up. Then maybe we can negotiate some brand deals, and really put some Nikes on your feet, and get you out there. Then we can start talking about the big bucks. You know what I mean?
I mean, I know we're being facetious and silly, but at the same time, like Al and I have talked about these things, like. We would do it if we could, but here's the thing. Here's the other thing about being successful or failure. Like, I think about this a lot.
Nice.
And I think there's it's the work that we do, the failures that we have, the successes that we have. Those are nice and those are part of it, but also like morality doesn't, like what is success and failure for living a moral or just life, so like it doesn't really compute, so I think it's important for us to realize that the things that we do and the things that we don't do, they don't just accomplish things in the world, they also accomplish things in us. So,
Wow.
like, I think a lot of people ignore that, and then they end up becoming something they never intended to, because they become these beasts of promotion and popularity. And
Mm-hmm.
like, if I'm gonna die by my morals and like suffer from my outlook and my perspective, that's fine. And, like, if I'm gonna be a failure and like, relegated to a place where no one is paying attention to me, I can live with that as long as I truly am myself. I can live with that. Like, I can rather die with that. That's just, I hate it because I also believe in making a difference. I believe in people. I believe in change. So like,
Yeah.
I would, like, people talk to punk all the time about selling out, blah blah blah. Like, I don't think someone who's truly righteous could ever sell out. They could buy in maybe, but like, they can't sell out. But like, you, I mean, capitalism is just never going to let. We're not marketable in some generic sense, whether it's because of our outlook or whether it's because we just suck. I don't know what it is, and that's fine too. Like, I'm just not as good as I thought I was, and that's I'm not. I don't beat myself up with that shit, because I just have to do what I have to do. I put myself on a road, and I get the things. I look down the road, and I know that that's the road I want to be on. Like, if this is heading in the place that I want to go, I can live with direction that I'm headed in. I don't think I'm very smart, but I do think I have the ability to like look ahead of things. I think a lot of that has to do
Wow.
with being sober. And
Yeah.
so I can see things down the road. And I know that I want to be on the road that I'm on, even though it's going to be bumpy and awful, and maybe and most likely not really see a lot of people. But you got to die doing something. Better be something you believe in than something you don't. So, that's all good. You got to die doing something. It's okay. I don't beat myself up about the shit. Would I like to be a band that people like, enjoy listening to? Cool. Is it possible? I don't know.
That was
Sure.
it's so cool that you kind of brought this up in this way, because especially sobriety in that way, because this was another thing that I wanted to ask you about, because it was something that we actually talked about too in the podcasts of the past. If anybody
I
if
remember.
anybody doesn't want to get enough of Joe, if you at this point haven't gotten enough of Joey and I, there's there's more episodes from the past that you can download. I actually downloaded them because I'm like, I just want these forever,
Yeah.
But that was something that I wrote down, and that was the reason I wrote this down in my notebook, because it was me coming to the same place. Like, I just did this run of shows with my band, and it was just like I love those guys, and but it was never like, it just didn't feel like they invested what I wanted to invest into it. And I feel like if we all had brought a little bit, like, my level of like, I wanted to do that. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to play on stage. All of these other side projects and podcasting and all of these other things that I did because I was waiting to jam, and there's part of me that feels like a failure because I was never able to be like in a successful touring band, and now in a month I'm going to hit like 33, and I have kind of the same type of outlook that you have, where it was like, would I like that? Sure, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But I've kind of found, like, a little bit of like, I kind of feel a little bit like spiritually, like, if it was meant to happen, then maybe it would. And maybe my job, maybe it was not supposed to happen because I was maybe going to inspire someone else where it's going to happen for them, maybe the next generation or something like that. And that kind of fills me with a little bit more hope, and that kind of makes me feel more purposeful, like, okay, well, what can I do with what I got, because like I said, I feel like I was so wrong in thinking that you're either successful at not or not. I think success has to be within the boundaries of what your situation is. For somebody everybody's situation is so different. Everybody grows into different programming, different traumas, overcomes different things. So it feels like success is more defined from us and being successful with what we have versus being successful in the ways that other people defined it. Because to be honest with you, man, to be turning 33, living with my dad on Medicaid, on food stamps for 5 years. The last 5 years, I've made less than $20,000. Again, we're getting vulnerable. But, no kids, on paper, I'm a fucking loser. On paper, I'm a fucking failure. On paper,
me too.
I'm not the type of person that like chicks would be looking for. That's why I don't even date now, because I'm just like, this is probably not what you're gonna want to see. But what I am doing is, and what I do feel successful at, is the volunteer work that I'm doing, the reading that I'm doing, the self-empowerment, the putting things out there, the direction that I have, the foresight for the future. Like, I feel like I have an opportunity now to better myself. And something that you were talking about was, changing yourself and changing the world. Obviously, we know what Gandhi said about that. Like, to change the world, you got to start with yourself. So I feel like I have this unique privilege and opportunity to where, like, my dad has this house paid off. I don't have rent. He doesn't have mortgage. What can I do with this opportunity? And I feel like I have this opportunity.
That's great.
I have this, we just got my brother graduated high school. We got him through high school when he was really struggling, and he has scholarships to go to college. He's, because again, on paper, me and my dad are living in poverty, because we just don't have any income really. But we're able to make this really low income lifestyle work for us in a way where it's brought us closer together. It's brought us closer with this community in Northeast Philly. And it's like, I have this unique opportunity where I can read these books and empower myself and learn things in order to share it with the community and hopefully mentor kids that I've been working with. And I just signed up for the Big Brother, Big Sister program. I got my interview in a couple days, which I'm really excited about. So I just feel like maybe I'm not successful in a lot of people's eyes, but I feel like I feel happier now than I did when I was living in New York, biking everywhere, making a lot of money,
That's huge. That's great. Congratulations. That's not easy, and happiness is definitely like a useful gauge. I think I struggle with that concept very much, and I think it's a useful gauge to include in like how we're trying to figure shit out. But like, and as punks, I think the world looks at us all on paper and think losers. I mean,
yeah.
I think also the world looks at like people of more morality and community as losers too. I mean, like, in the sense of like America's success is measured in individual profit. That's
And
what
status.
success is.
Yeah.
Status and profit and trophies and whatever. I mean, all these things are just like, they're so ephemeral and stupid, and I don't know why we gauge it in that, other than we've been brought up to dig it, and it's just so, I'm not interested. And I hate to be one of those guys who says this dumbass, feels trite to say this shit, but getting out to other countries and seeing how people in other places live, like going to Colombia, 10 years ago, to me it was eye-opening in one way, because I'm like, everyone is so much happier here, and there's such better people.
I want to go, dude.
Why is it? Well, we have a Colombian community here too in New York, so like you can experience a bit of that by.
Oh, I got it here in Northeast Philly too. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like you there are elements of this. This is part of community building, is not just community building to them, but with them and letting them of you. So like, losing the ego and realizing that community building is about me, isn't it about them, it's about us together, sharing
Yeah.
an experience and growing. And that's very hard for Americans to understand. It's very hard for me to understand, especially when I gauge success and like, what have I been able to accomplish? It's like, who really gives a shit?
Yeah, right.
30, 40, 50, 2, 3, 4, 50, 100, 400 years. No one's going to give a shit about Joey Steele. It's irrelevant. It's still, I'm, I'm dust in the wind. I'm dust in the wind. No one's going to
I
care about
care,
Ian MacKay.
Joey. We care.
I, I can't, it's just losing the ego. It's just like,
Yeah.
I have these experiences with these people I adore and love, and I need to find a contentness in helping them meet their needs and helping them exist. It's just changing our understanding of what success is. Very difficult. It's very difficult for me. Very difficult to think about the on paper aspect of it because also we got to like do paperwork, like we got to pay our bills, and we got to
Yep.
we got all those things are real too. And I'm sure like my family or people I know think I'm a loser, and that's sad to think about, but also I think that they're insane. Like I think that
Right.
they're lost and never having truly deep connections, like truly moving, if you want to say spiritual, like engagements with a crowd where, to me, I love performing. I love making music. I love being on a stage, but not because of my ego. Maybe that's involved in it on some level, but it's because I love being with a crowd and going somewhere on a journey. It just feels so special to me. I love that connection that music offers us. And it lets me truly be myself and connect with other people who are finding a way to connect to that. It means so much to me. Maybe there's, even saying it, like I could see the ego involved in it, but like, I think part of it is losing ego. The best all torn up shows I ever did back in the day, the best performers I ever had, I lost consciousness. I like didn't know what I was doing on the stage. I just like
Right.
got up and did it, and then probably sounded like absolute shit, but like we were sharing this moment, and it felt so special. And I think I chase that all the time. But
Yeah.
like that, and our concepts of success and failure, they just don't like deal with that. Like that's just not like involved in the calculation, or like joy and happiness or contentness or community. Like these are concepts that don't occur necessarily in the same way to other people in other places as they do to people in the United States. They're so selfish here. They're so small and stupid and selfish and petty, and they're not appreciative of the cosmos and the universe and the world and like the dust. And
Yeah.
it all doesn't matter that much, but it's also the most important thing in the universe. So it's like being both those things is confusing, and accepting that, and then just like finding the joy. And it makes me feel good to hear you say you're so happy doing this, because I think a lot of people can't get past the paper and think there's anything more than that. And if you
Well, that's
can
how we were
take,
programmed, of course, with capitalism and the education
and it's
system.
there's also a realness to it. Like the bills are just hard to pay. You're on food stamps. It's just difficult things to navigate. So like this comfort in being able to make the money. So like it's not just how we're programmed. It's also the
Sure.
material reality of the world we're in.
Survival. Yeah.
And I think you being able to acknowledge how the world can see that, and also um, that you have, even in the poverty that we experience, you have a privilege that you're using in order to connect with other people and to be part of something. I think it's important to think about the semantics too. Like I often thought of building, but it's more like be part of the construction of. It's more like be involved in, like leadership and ledge becomes confusing concepts when we're truly like trying to lose our ego. But like, I think talking about a privilege, you have this, how you call privilege over this house you're staying in, and how you can use it to be part of a community. I think that's like a huge element in this mix, of like having a perspective and seeking to change that perspective and challenging it, but also firmly putting it out and being part of a community without being overwhelmed, like just becoming a cog in a community. Like you are an individual, but in a community of other people who you truly respect. It is a confusing, constant journey that we're on. And so, I think for me, the future, I've been really trying to focus more on people. Like I talked about earlier in the podcast, like my partnership with my brilliant partner, Christine. I really have, I fail at it all the time, but like, I think the music stuff for me has felt more of a failure, and that's sad. But the community building, even in the failures, felt fucking good.
But do you feel like your definition of failure is coming from a lack of an expectation?
Um, I think it's coming from a lack of reasonable expectation because I'm an unreasonable person in some ways. Like I have goals. I am very, very driven. I'm very motivated. I'm very hardworking, and I have goals of things that I'm working towards. And those goals are material. Like I think they're possible and they're realistic, but they're ambitious and far fetched. And also some of them are not fucking possible. And that is very freeing to me because I know that I'm on a journey to accomplish a goal that I will never achieve. So, like, kind of easy to be like, all right, cool, whatever. I'm not going to accomplish that goal. Like, I get to be on a journey going toward that goal. We did a song on the last Cop Out album. Al, actually, we never play it live, even though it's the cadence for the for the song is probably not my best work. And I like the song, but like it's called Paper Boat, and the song is about how like we're never gonna get to this place. We're just like a paper boat in an ocean trying to go somewhere, but you're not gonna cross the ocean in your paper ass boat, dude. It's never gonna get there. So like, does that mean we should not get in the ocean and do it? Does that mean we should not try those things? Absolutely not. It's just like it's about who else is in the boat with you. You know, that really the life is about. So
But what
that's what
about
that song is
also
about.
people that see your boat and see that your boat isn't going to make it, and then they think, you know what, we're going to need a bigger boat.
We're gonna need a bigger boat. But that's also like part of the song is like then setting the boat on fire and then hoping that it catches fire to other people and that other people see the light and then they can head toward you and help rescue you or be part with you or save you or that's sort of where the song ends is the fire. But like, yeah, I just think the concepts of success and failure, they fail us really. And so just remembering that it's about people and connection. I get sad sometimes on tour and I get like lost in the complexity of the goals we're trying to achieve sometimes. And my partner is always reminding me like the music you make, the shows that you do, the big ones and the little ones, the profitable ones and the ones that don't make money, they're about connection.
Yes.
And that is what it's about. And it can be big connections or little connections. So I try to never take those connections for granted. And I try to just find joy in that connection at the time and let it organically grow into something that hopefully can be more than just that connection for that moment. So I think life is going to be trying to make more of those connections. I think the future might hold. Um, there are these things people should check out in Europe and in other places too, but they're called Wagenplatzes. They're like anarchist collectives.
Say it
That
again.
sort of
Say
like
it again
enclose
slowly.
Wagenplatz. That's like it's basically like
Wagenplatz.
plots. Yeah, it's a plot of land that basically you have like
Plot.
caravans or RV. Yeah, it's like a plot of land. You have a semi trucks or RVs or campers or cars or small homes that you put together. I'm not an expert on these things, but I've been to some. I've stayed in some anti-fascist Wagenplatzes, and been to some wonderful ones, and they enclose it like within a city, like they could be in a major city, and then just like surround it with basically a way that the cops can't easily get in and disrupt it.
Wow.
And they just build a community there. And they're temporary. They're like squatted. It's basically an extension of a squat.
Wow.
And I think like I could be happy just like sort of working in building a wagon box with some people, or going off and just building a small community where people can have shows and connect. I could be happy. I think my future could be along those lines. If we can make that happen, I think that would probably be a future I could get down with.
Wow, that's cool, because that's another question. Like where could you end up? Where could you see yourself ending up? And you just answered it for me. I do want to ask you, as we're wrapping up here, there's a couple of things I want to ask you, but there's something. I talked about some of the work that I'm doing, and some of the community building that I'm hoping to do within the punk scene, because, you and I have a lot in common in that we're both sober people in the punk scene. And I think that gives us this perspective to see things for what they are, in a clear way. And when you and I, like, we also have obviously similar goals of empowerment within that context, within that community, in terms of, encouraging people to walk a sober path if they feel like it, or, and just being better overall. And something that I'm trying to do within the punk scene, and this is something that I want to hear your thoughts on, because you've talked about being an atheist and how that helped you empower yourself, and you sort of kind of had something, I'll say something that people can interpret as being an awakening in that way, where it caused you to see something bigger than yourself. But I think for a lot of people, atheism is kind of synonymous to like nihilism and what's the point, and there's nothing out there. Because I think a lot of figures that claim to be atheists, this is another thing that's been hijacked by humans and shown in different ways. So a lot of times atheism are like they seek to combat religion, and that people are all brainwashed, and they can tend to go on the internet and be perceived in a certain type of like negative light and a nihilistic light. And I think that that's also something that is kind of popular in the punk scene that I've seen. The people that are like aggressively atheist, and I think those are also usually the types of people that are using substances, because what's the point? And so my question for you, and getting to what my purpose is that I'm hoping to learn about, because I used to be a really negative person, and we were talking about ego, and I used to have a really negative ego that was telling me I was never doing enough, I'm not good enough, and this is why I'm failing. And reading Michael Singer's book called The Untethered Soul really shined a light on my relationship with my ego. And I think that a lot of people in the punk scene and artists have a very toxic relationship with their ego, and a real negative ego. And I fundamentally think that is one of the core beliefs that is holding us back in the punk scene, is that negative ego. And I think that causes us to be nihilistic and all of these things. So my awakening, I kind of frame more in the realm of spirituality, and again, connection with everybody through a spirit, through a universal energy. Not to get too hippie with it, because I feel like that's where punk is. To me, punk is the spectrum between being a nihilist and being a hippie. When you're somewhere on that spectrum, you're a punk. But if you're totally one way or the other, nobody wants to fucking deal with you. So my question for you is like, I have this purpose where I feel like I want to bring more positivity, self-awareness, and spirituality to the punk scene. That's why I'm doing this kind of work and learning from people like Joe Dispenza and Wayne Dyer, and even Malcolm X, who talked about, one of the things that from his book that really stuck with me was that, I'm going to paraphrase here, but he said something along the lines of like, white people have convinced black folks that heaven and hell exists in the afterlife in order to control them through the church. So, but really heaven and hell exists right here on earth, like right here, right now. You could either be living in hell or living in heaven. Something along those lines. I don't forget the right way he put it, but it was basically like heaven and hell exists right here, right now, depending on your way of life. And so my question for you is, do you feel like, because I feel like that's what the punk scene needs. It needs more unity, it needs more connection, it needs more positivity, and I believe that this comes from spirituality. But what are your thoughts on that? I know that was a lot. That was a lot to digest. I'm so sorry. Take your time.
I appreciate that. I think that that's a good question. I think that there's a lot involved. That's I don't think I can answer all of it. I definitely reject being on a spectrum between nihilist and hippie because I hate both of them. But
that's why you're in between them. But okay, yeah.
I'm not even on the fucking same. I'm not even on the same continuum as them. I'm on a whole nother fucking. I'm on another continuum somewhere else. I don't want to have anything to do with either one of those fucking two things.
But wouldn't you say that your paper boat analogy could be seen as like kind of nihilistic because you're like, oh, it's never
absolutely not. I get this a lot from people, and it's very confusing to me. I get this. People tell me very often that they think I'm pessimistic and negative, and I don't feel it at all. In fact, I get it so much it feels like gaslighting. Like I almost like it starts to get to me and be like, maybe I am pessimistic. What the fuck? And like I am so hopeful and optimistic. That's why I do what I do. That's why I put on shows, and that's why I'm in bands and make music. That's why I had a podcast. Like I believe in people. Like I love people. I love what Lennon said, I hate what people are, I love what they can become. But like I don't even really hate what they are. Like I love what we can become, and I kind of just love what we are. Like I just think we could you said like we could be better. I think we could be better. I also don't think that I have all of the answers of what better is. I have been made better by others at least as much as I have helped others be better. Like probably a lot more. Like other people have helped me be better.
Right.
So like I think when we community build, it's truly important for us. It's so hard because we are going to make something. So we're leading something into being. So like we have to have vision. We have to have very clear vision. I had that with Punk Island. Like when I took over Punk Island, I had a very clear vision of what I wanted it to become, and I spent 10 years making it that way with other people, and that vision changed significantly, but I never lost sight of what I wanted, and despite the fact that there were significant changes and it happened in ways that I never anticipated, you can't be a leader without vision. That being said, you can't be a leader worth anything if you don't allow others to lead you as well. So it is a mixture of these two things that is very complicated and difficult to live. And I think a lot of it actually has to do with perspective. It's like simultaneously having one that is unique and far reaching and visionary, but also not letting that stifle your growth in those things. And that is very complicated. Most people will get disenchanted or they get disheartened by the fact that they will like their vision becomes changing and growing and developing and different. So they sort of like, well, maybe I shouldn't lead anymore, and so I should quit. It's like you can lead in a way, if you're leading in a way that's truly empowering, the people you're leading will help you grow and change your vision if you're listening to them. And if you hear them, you know, the contradiction between it's something that communists we call the contradiction between leadership and led. And I don't think any communist party has ever quite gotten right, including one that I was in. It was terrible with it. And it's something that we sort of overlook because we believe in like a Vanguard and all these other big concepts that I'm sure most people hearing this are like, if they know about it, they're like, fuck this guy. Oh, good. I get it. I get it. I truly, I hear it. But the contradiction between leadership and led is just so much more complicated than we'll ever understand. And we should have vision and we should have an assertive, I even think, to use a word that nobody finds fashionable, but I even think almost fundamentalist, almost absolutist. Like I think your vision needs to be heavy-handed and directional and fundamentalist. I think John Brown was a fundamentalist. Malcolm X was in some ways a fundamentalist. Huey Newton I think was a fundamentalist. Like other people would disagree on those things, but I think you have to have a whole vision that's truly all encapsulating. But don't be so foolish to think that the people who you truly love and value, who you are leading, don't have ways to inspire you to change and develop and deepen that vision. Because if you do, you're going to be a horrible leader. If you drag people into the future that you want, maybe there's good to come from it, but it won't be a righteous future unless you've truly empowered the people around you. And if you're empowering the people around you, they're going to challenge your vision in ways that might actually dethrone you, that might actually
or alter
upset.
It. Yeah.
Maybe they expel you. Maybe they cancel you. Whatever.
Right.
Is it bad? I mean, might be sad, but you empowered the people around you, and hopefully you led in a way that put them on a trajectory to reach the vision that you loved. So it's complicated, and I think I probably digressed so far from the initial concept that you asked me about that I apologize. I'm also very sick right now, so it might
I know. You're dude, I can't believe you're hanging in there. You must. Again, I think you got the Holy Spirit in you, whether you know it or not. It's keeping you. It's working through you. But that's why that.
But you're talking about optimism, and I just want to be really really clear
positivity and spirituality. Yeah.
I read The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale when I was in,
I remember our little back and forth on it. Yeah, that was great.
Yes, I remember our back and forth on it, but like that book changed my life in the sense that I read it when I was in 10th grade. My health teacher encouraged me to read it. I read it, and I came back in. I was like, what the fuck did you just have me read? You sick, crazy piece of shit. This is so much not the world that I want to live in. And positivity has to come from a truly deep place in order for it to be genuine. And, like in the hardcore scene, I know a lot of beautiful, wonderful people who are all about PMA. And I know a lot of, and it's just, I'm not down. It's not with me. That's not part of me. I don't believe in it. I don't think that saccharine, oozing positivity does anything for us. It's got to be genuine positivity, and it's got to come from a direct place, a truly direct place. And I think that positivity comes from loving people, and believing that people are the best, and also maybe the worst, but also the best thing in the universe. And so I believe in their righteous ability to make change and do. And so that helps fuel me for my positive outlook on things. I'm not supremely positive. Almost everybody I know thinks I'm a negative piece of shit. So it's very confusing. But I really do think I am at least a materialist, if not an optimist. And I try to, you're not going to get anything done in this world if you don't think something good's going to come from it. You're going to give it up. You're not going to keep working on it. So you have to find a place to think that what you're doing matters. And the only way to do that is to believe something positive about what you're doing. So finding that perspective that fills you with a sense that this is possible. maybe that's like readjusting your goals. Maybe that's like uh, changing your vision. Maybe that's like I definitely think a huge part of what we've done in Cop Out and in All Torn Up and in everything that I've ever done was
Mm-hmm.
try to speak to the cynicism that exudes in American. Everyone thinks nothing matters. And so like almost every All Torn Up song, Cop Out song, I have tried to repudiate that cynicism, and it's not cool, right? It's like
Right.
cynicism is cool. It's like, nothing matters. I don't fucking care. I don't care what you think I'm cool. I hate that outlook. I think it's utterly capitalist. It's utterly short sighted. It's utterly petty. And it enables you to do these awful things to people. And I'm not having it. I live a moral, just life. I believe things get possible. I think things can change. And I reject wholeheartedly in every fiber of my being any cynical bullshit. And yet I still get people all the time telling me I'm cynical. And I'm like, I don't understand it. I don't want anything to do with it. So, maybe I'm naive and deluded in how I look at things, because I just think um, anything's possible. If we
Mm-hmm.
if we just if we truly put our whole beings into it, we can do just about anything within reason, or even without reason. As I said in '68 in Paris and stuff, like, be utterly rational, do the unreasonable. So yeah, I mean, it's. I think there's a lot more to that. It
Mm.
maybe it's spirituality for some people, but I think we have to find a way to be positive. I struggle with it too. I struggle with like the success and failure part of it, like truly seeing change and things. But like, look what's happening. Like, I wasn't involved in leading these ICE protests. I wasn't involved in leading Occupy into being when it happened. I wasn't involved in opposition and the initiation of the Black Lives Matter movement. All that stuff happened on because people, conscious or otherwise,
Yeah.
were fighting for it to be. Like, we don't have to be perfect. It doesn't all have to come from us. These are not individuals who are doing everything righteous in the world. We get down with it and we fucking help move it forward, and we're part of it, and we get changed by it, and we lead it. Like, just things are changing, and it's glorious. Everywhere around us, we see the cynicism fading. And it's not just punks, Roger. I think you're wrong in thinking about it being punks. I think it's Americans. I think it's Americans who are the cynics. And I think punks are all too American. We just accept
Mm.
all this American bullshit. And even people who are like, fuck America, I'm like, in what way are you fuck America? Like, how are you fuck America in your life? Like, it's so easy to say it, but like, in what way are you fuck America? And part of that is loving people and their complexity, and knowing that they're filled with contradictions, and appreciating them, and being with them even when they disagree with you or fighting you, or you're empowering them and loving them. And so like, fuck America is so great. We all need to say it. Fuck America. I 100% agree. Burn all the flags. Great. But it's got to go down to our bones. Like, in what way are we fuck America in our daily life? And a big part of that is people are not tools. They are not. They are not utensils to be making our visions real. They are not utilitarian objects for us to play with. They are human beings with different, unique, loving, caring, challenged, wrong, happy, great, brilliant perspectives. And we should be with them and build together. Mao said, you're a communist when you're with the people, and you're not when you're not. It's pretty simple. Like,
Right.
you can't be one hiding in your enclave, espousing theory and writing songs about how people are stupid and they're never going to get it and you're just better than them. Like, fuck all that shit. Drop all the American nonsense. Truly being un-American means never wanting to exploit people, even to make our own vision. It means loving them deeply, appreciating them, and building together. And it's hard.
Well, that to me is spiritual, because that to me is how we look past the judgments. We look past the physical. We look past, where you come from and what your programming is, and you speak to the soul, which is, in my opinion, best quantified, or at least verbalized, through the words of the spiritual teachers that I've been reading into nowadays. I mean, that's why I'm like, I think even though we may not agree with, or rather punks may not agree with being spiritual or having a spiritual teacher, I feel like we get to that point where it's like semantics, where in order for us to really connect like soul to soul, you have to believe that the soul kind of exists. But you don't have, well, I don't say you have to believe, but to me it's like that's the best way that I've seen to connect people in terms of energy, in terms of soul, in terms of what lies beyond appearances and judgments, in order to empower and community build. That's what I mean. And this brings me to like my last question.
And then I think a lot of folks who are down with the 12-step programs and AA and stuff, I think that there's an element of this too, like, finding that higher power, and people look at that. I mean, people can interpret what I'm talking about as being a higher power, a higher purpose, a higher power, whatever. Like, I think that that's, relatively synonymous, and maybe there's semantics involved in it. I don't like to ever relegate differences to semantics, because I think that gives us an opportunity to not truly appreciate how different those things are. So I think that it is like an easy off ramp for us. So, there are semantic differences, but more often than not, those semantic differences are hiding or masking or simplifying something that is truly, truly different. And it's okay. I think that there is a difference between a higher power and a higher purpose, because there's a power involved in that. There's a malleability. It doesn't matter. We talked a little bit about that in other ways, but I do think there is a difference there. And I think that if you are finding the positivity and spirituality that like brings you to connect deeply with people, listen to them and help lead them and be part of a community, cool. And then when you run up against the wall, or you think there are limitations about that, because you're engaging this deep method of how you're thinking about your own activity, when you run up against the wall to see a limitation in that, then think about it more. Maybe it's wrong, and I will do the same. And like, that's all we can do is just like take this, have a good, healthy scientific method to approach changing our own ideas, much like Malcolm X did. Malcolm X was special in part because he had a scientific method that it was evident in his activity. I don't know his methodical procedures, but like, he changed his ideas. He didn't just accept a dogma or a praxis or whatever as it. He was able to change. The problem I have with religion is it debilitates the ability for us to really change our ideas. It makes it so we just have to. It's obligatory, the things we do, and I think obligation is counter to us and intention. So, I think like when you run up against the wall and that you see limitations in the way you're thinking of things, rethink them. Yeah. But until then, it sounds like you got a really healthy way to try to work with people. It sounds beautiful. It sounds great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And one of the I think one of the fundamental like shifts within Malcolm X was that pilgrimage to Mecca, even though that was kind of when he came back to the US, that's when kind of things started to fall apart. But that was when his perspective really shifted, which is
seeing how other people in other places
ironic.
Lived.
Yeah. If you
it was ironic in that well, the Nation of Islam only wanted them to think it was about black and white. And so,
Right.
it wasn't an internationalist struggle. It was a nationalist struggle. The
Yeah.
Nation of Islam was a nationalist struggle. So like when he took the opportunity to be more internationalist beyond the borders, it opened his eyes up. And, to me, internationalism, I'm not saying, look, it's very complicated because there is a righteous national struggle, the oppression of black people in this country. It's very righteous. And like, if nothing else happens in our lifetimes other than a black nation emerges in opposition to the United States that takes a section of land, I would feel like we've done a wonderful thing.
Oh my
But I'm an
God. Yeah.
internationalist. I believe in internationalism. I don't believe in any nationalism.
Right.
I think all nationalism um, is is working against our righteous class opportunity,
Mm.
our worldwide. So it is very complicated and deserves the sound bites are never gonna appreciate it as much as Malcolm X did a good job of trying to, because he was the greatest. But yeah,
Right.
it was the internationalism that propelled him to move beyond um, his limitations and perspective.
Can you imagine, like, when I was reading this, because I read this recently, so I kind of imagined Malcolm X in 2020. I think I finished reading it last year in 2024. Can you imagine Malcolm X in 2024? Like I kind of, this could be a whole separate conversation. What would Malcolm X be doing in this day and age? But yeah, like it was that was another thing that kind of put me on this path, as I'm sure it put you on your path in some ways when you started to try to do some more empowerment and community building stuff. It was like kind of thinking about what kinds of stuff he would be doing, and I don't know, strategies he would have, the tools that he would be using to spread his message. It was, and I love the part of the book.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine how hard it would be to be one of the most looked at radical leaders in the world with a massive, massive following, and
Yeah.
then to come back and be like, I learned from these other people, and I was wrong, and all the people I've been leading, I was wrong,
Mm.
and I need to change. Do you know how hard that would have been for him? All
Oh
the
my
challenges
God.
we face to change our perspectives while we're leading
Yeah.
are nothing compared to how hard that was. And he knew it was going to kill him. And he knew the group he was leaving and the strength that it had and the people he was up against. So like whatever we do, it pales in comparison to how hard it was for him to admit that and change his perspective and still be a leader. And that's exactly what our obligation is as a leader, is to aspire to that, to
Yeah.
lead with vision, as Malcolm did, clear, fundamentalist, hardcore, dedicated vision, and the vulnerability to learn from the people he's trying to lead and change. Fuck.
And
Good
that's
luck.
that's another
It
thing
sucks
that I
hard.
try to talk about with artists and creative people and punk people, like on my YouTube channel, is just I feel like so many of us have a dream and we have like hope, but I feel like what we need to have is a vision. And I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes our dream gets in the way of what our vision should be. Like dreams of this and that, especially when it comes to, I mean, think about what the fundamental thing is here in capitalist society, is the American dream. Like that gets
Mhm.
in the way of having a vision of community building, because the American dream is really just about getting rich and having your own fucking family, and this is my land and that is your land and this is my fence, don't fucking come over here, I'm gonna fucking shoot you. So like, yeah, so for me, like having a vision is such a core principle, and it brings me to my last question. I know, damn, we got down in using your words.
To use your words though, and to vision, to think about the relationship between vision and perspective is also,
Mm,
like it's like you're taking your perspective and you're projecting it forward to see down the road. Um, this is a superpower we could have as people, is to take our perspective and project it forward into a vision, and to always like constantly recheck that perspective to see if our vision is skewed. Like these concepts are intimately figuratively and literally connected.
Yeah,
And it really is, down the road. Yeah. So,
and at least with music and creative people, it's coming from connection, it's coming from empowerment, it's coming from shifting perspectives, learning about new ones, and empowering the ones around you. And it segues me to this last question that I have, and we've touched on this a little bit, but I kind of want you to put it out there in a more definitive way, because something that I learned from this Life Surge event was they asked the question of, I forget how they phrased it, but they were talking, somebody was talking to an entrepreneur or whatever, and it was like, they said something along the lines of, would you rather have success or would you rather have impact? And they were trying to define this notion of being successful versus having an impact. And in a roundabout way, they said that, one hand washes the other, where when you start to see success in your own right, you use that to have impact, which is cool, depending on the specifics of it all. But it kind of opened my eyes to that world a little bit. And even if it comes from learning these principles, like, I don't know, trading stocks or real estate, all this bullshit shit that they were like, they were like, if you go down this road, how, and if you make money and you get success with it, how are you going to use it to make an impact? And this was something that Henry Rollins came under fire for when he was in that Calvin Klein ad. Everybody in the punk scene was up in arms, and then he was like, well, look, I bought all these laptops, I made a record label, I put all these bands together, I put out these books, and then he had to, he was basically audited by the punk community for. So I give all this context to ask you, I kind of talked about what I wanted to do with the punk scene and with my community here in Northeast Philly. That's kind of the impact that I want to have. I'm even thinking about opening a school of rock business here to see if I can get kids involved in music a little bit more. But I want to know from you, like, looking at what you're doing now and even what you have done, let's take that into a vision. Can you define your vision for impact in the future, or based on what you've done already, like the impact you've had already? What kind of vision do you have now?
That's a good question. I think the contradiction between these two, success and impact, is a lot more complicated than it even appears to me. Like, when you first said these things, I was like, oh, I clearly know what my answer is to that. But at the same time, it is more complicated, because without some success, the power dynamic in everything is complicated. So
especially here,
without even within ourselves, without seeing accomplishments, it's difficult to continue on. So you need to, like, I realize that I have to. I think this is why people think I'm negative. Like, I have spent too long just like looking further down the road and not appreciating
the present moment,
the successes or the impacts that I'm having at any given time. I think people acknowledging the things that they're accomplishing unintentionally in the journey that they're on to try and accomplish a bigger thing is important. So, like, you might call those successes. I think that they probably would call those successes, and they would probably call those like business successes. And I could see how that's important to people. Like, in order to continue to fight that good fight, you need to appreciate like the positive things that are changing on that path. Like, you can't keep running if it just fucking hurts all the time, right? So, like, you're clicking the miles away. Like, you didn't make it to the 27th mile, but like, okay, you made it 26. Does it negate all 27, all 26 if you didn't make it to the 27th? Like,
right.
I think it's important for us to try to figure out how to recharge those batteries with some sort of successes. Like we're just not going to keep doing it. This is where I was at. I'm like, I have to see. I should have had smaller successes that I was trying to attain within the bigger one. Smaller bite-sized things. I can't just swallow the whole pizza. Like you chew one bite at a time. Like if I'm trying to eat the pizza, if that's my goal, like I gotta chew it. I can't just stuff it in my fucking face. So I do think that there is a point to all that in terms of our vision. However, I don't. It's impact. It's 100% impact, and
Yeah.
and I think that even the way the semantics that we frame it within are also telling of who we are, right? Because I think that the contradiction between success and impact, when I think about that, to me, that's really about uh, yourself for you, success for you, or impact on others.
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone is fucking held up by a piece of gaff tape here. So it's success for you. Success for you is about you or impact on others. I don't give a fuck about me. I don't care. I gladly, I dedicated myself to throwing myself in the grinder for justice a long time ago. I don't care if I live in a dumpster or if I just go to prison. Like it was always about letting go of myself in order to make an impact so that the world would change or that other people would change or whatever. It was always the impact. The impact is all that ever mattered to me. I hate taking band photos because it's just like these are all just like personal affirmations that they weren't what I wanted. It was about other people, not about myself. And so and I think that that's like a fundamental problem. I think in America, like if we want it to be about ourself, like it's not about community then. So it's a constant struggle to really just remember that it's about other people. And if you keep remembering that,
Yeah.
I think it's a good guide to keep us off the bad roads because there are so many trappings of ego, especially as a musician. See it all the time. Ego, being on stage above other people with a microphone.
Yeah.
There is this opportunity to really think that you're better, and I don't I don't see it. I don't like it. I hate the way it feels. I don't want to have anything to do with it. It's about the connection. It's about them as much as me, and I just think in order to crush that ego shit, you've got to have a deeper, further goal. And 99% of musicians don't have it. It's
No, they
about
don't.
success. It's about money. It's about glory. It's about fame. It's about accolades and all this. It's so gross and so petty. And I'm not saying that I have no desire for personal thing. Like we all have ego on some level, but
I
I
guess we
have
kind of need it
pushed
on some level too.
totally. Can't have a perspective if you don't have a self. You can't have vision if you don't have some place you're looking at it from.
Yeah.
So denying yourself isn't healthy. However, checking that ego and making sure that it's about something bigger than yourself, an idea, a principle, something further than you is essential to anything just. And, you know, um, I think this is why political bands are just better bands, not because they're necessarily making better music, but because there's something more than just them that they're trying to accomplish. It's not even necessarily like overtly political bands. Like I just saw quote by Fiona Apple the other day. I love Fiona Apple's music,
Wow.
and she was just talking about some of these contradictions. I posted it to Instagram or whatever, and I think she's an incredible dynamic musician that I think is deeply underappreciated. And I just think like, yeah, I'm like, why? She's not a political musician, but she pours her heart out in those songs. Like you could feel the depth that she's putting into those. So it's like I just think there is something else meaningful or like the Cranberries, another band that people wouldn't think that I love, but I I've adored the Cranberries since, as one of my biggest regrets in life is not having ever seen her
Uh,
sing before she passed
you and my
away.
dad could talk about the Cranberries for a while, I think.
I love the Cranberries, but it wasn't ever just about her. She never left her band. She had opportunities to. She had a vision. It wasn't a like overtly or righteous political one or something like that, but she had a vision, and her music, you could feel the soulfulness in her fucking singing. Like none of us could ever capture because she had technique and heart. And it's like, you know, um, I think that I could go down the list of like just thousands of other musicians who I think exude this. And there might be
Yeah.
better technicians of it. I see people in Brooklyn all the time who are really great at all the fucking noodles. And I'm like, your music sounds fucking heartless. You're on stage masturbating on a guitar. I couldn't care less about hearing the shit you're doing,
Yeah.
you know, um, without perspective, without vision, without purpose and intent beyond the self, like almost all of the art is useless and gross and dead and heartless, I think. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm going off on the wrong direction of things, but like, um, yeah, I mean,
But how about your impact for the
and my
future?
impact is in the future. Sometimes I think I it's shrinking. Like I'm limiting what I'm really trying to make an impact. I tried to be myself and make an impact on the community that I loved with people that I loved, and like I did in a way, but I was always looking too big. I was always looking too far past it, and I couldn't appreciate where I was
Yeah.
and the impact I was having. And so it's been a huge problem for me in my personal relationships, in my band relationships, in all my relationships of just like truly appreciating what's happening
Yeah.
and the people I'm with while I'm with them. Like,
Yeah.
I made touring for All Torn Up miserable. Like I made it so miserable. I made it so hard for them because I was always focused on the impact down the road. I held such an untenable high standard, and I pushed us so hard that I really was just awful. I was an awful person to them at times, and I never really had fun on tour because I was always focused on accomplishing something, and it's never going to get accomplished. It doesn't really matter. But those relationships, I'm so glad that they've given me the grace to still be my loving partners in music because I love them so much, and I feel so terrible of how I treated them, and sometimes, and
Yeah. Mm.
I wish that I could do it over again to like find a balance on that paper boat, like that I could
Wow. Yeah.
appreciate the journey we were on while we were trying to get somewhere that was probably never going to happen. And so finding that balance between those two things is the line that I aspire to walk. And I'm just not good at it. I mean, it's such a hard, I've made so many catastrophic mistakes with the people I just most love in this world that I'm sure they would give me grace to be back in their life, but it's humiliating and sad and painful. And I just want to like, at least if I can't crawl back into the loving arms, I just want to at least like be better in the future to get this balance right of like wanting to execute a vision that has impact, but
Mm.
also valuing the journey to make that impact. And I think a lot of it has to do with like, I have a tattoo on my arm
Yeah.
of the Earth being made and the Moon being made, about a rock smashing into the primordial Earth and spinning and becoming the Moon and Earth of what it is today. And I think about that. I got that because of this question of impact. Impact to me is definitive. That nothing changed more for humanity than that rock did smashing into the Earth.
Quite
Like
literally, the impact.
literally that impact. Yeah, literally that word. Literally that is so much to me. That word. And I think about just like if that rock hadn't hit Earth,
Oh man.
would the journey that it had been on, had it been a sentient being, been any less meaningful?
Wow.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean, it wouldn't have made humans, but
Or
uh,
dinosaurs.
nothing would have existed on this planet if it wasn't for that rock having impact. So, like, if it had a miserable journey, it was just like the most miserable, sad rock for since the beginning of time that it existed for millennia. Would it have been worth it to make that impact? Yeah, I mean, I objectively think so, right? But at the same time, I am not a rock, and like, and I am on a journey, and I am trying to make an impact, and it will never be as big as that one, no matter what I do. It will always be less meaningful than that, and I have to appreciate the fact that I'm not a rock, and that my journey, um, it has meaning in and of itself. And so it's a very
Absolutely.
hard concept for me. But it literally, I wrote a song a little bit about it for Bowhead called we're about to release it relatively soon. It's called
Nice.
War. It's about a sentient rock in a cave. Um,
Wow. So what? So give us the dates of when All Torn Up is playing soon. We got new music coming
oh yeah,
out. What else do we have going on?
yeah. Thanks for leading it back to here after all of our bullshit. I appreciate that.
I think I could
I'll turn
skip
up.
therapy this week. I feel like we've gotten down and deep to the point where I'm like, I'm gonna call Miss Danzler. I'm gonna be like, you know what? I'm all good. I talked to Joey for a few hours.
Fucking 4 hours. All Torn Up has a bunch of shows coming up. Callum, who is a good friend of mine, and he's in Bowhead as well. He's the lead. Him and Jerry write a lot of the songs in Bowhead, and he's actually playing bass in All Torn Up now. And
Oh,
so we have a little bit of a different sound. Philippe, who lives in Philly, is still
yeah.
part of our collective. We still work with Philippe and write with Philippe, but he's not really playing with us that much because he's living life in Philly right now.
Shout out.
Jason, our guitar player, just had a baby. So things are more complicated for All Torn Up, but we have a show coming up at the end of June
Mm-hmm.
in Philly
Mm-hmm.
at Nikki Lopez with Impact Driver. Speaking of Impact, and
Yep.
Doc Doc Rotten,
Doc Rotten.
Doc
Shout
Rotten,
out to
yes,
Johnny.
for the Socialist Rifle Association of Philly, the chapter from Philly. Shout out to Adam
Yeah.
for putting us on the show, remembering old Turn Up from back in the day. And then that's at the end of June, and then we have another show coming up with Triangle Fire, one of our good friends, a great crusty band from Atlanta. People should check out Triangle Fire. They're going to be coming up to New York, and Leg Drop Productions is putting on a show with them and All Torn Up. I can't remember the day. I think it's like a Thursday or some shit. But like it's in Brooklyn. We haven't played in a long time, so hope people come out and see Triangle Fire. It's a really killer lineup. So All Torn Up is playing a lot more shows. We're hopefully going to do more. Cop Out is on. Oh, Bowhead, who I'm also in with Callum. We just recorded our second set of songs with Tommy Camuso, who won a Grammy for the Blondie box set and other things. He's an incredible producer and recording engineer, and we're very privileged to be working with him the second time. I love working with this fun guy. So he's doing our second set of tunes that will be coming out very, very soon. He's doing the final touches on the mixes right now. And all the art, everything's ready to roll. So you can stay tuned to Bowhead. I'm super excited. Those songs are fucking weird. They're so weird. They're so weird to
That's
me.
what we need
They're
these days.
so far outside my comfort zone. They're about really weird shit. There's a song about a sentient rock in a cave, and there's another song about um, Joshua trees. Oh, you'll like it actually. It's about Joshua trees and Joshua Tree Forest, watching fire come down a mountain and the religious experience they have in relationship to these mountains. It's just weird. It's just weird shit. Fucking super.
Weird
There's another
and
one about
spiritual.
there's a one about a race of slug-like creatures living underneath a waterfall, moving to the hollow of a tree. I mean, it's just weird shit. Um, so that's Bowhead. That's coming out. We're doing a
It's
lot more shows
Bowhead.
with Bowhead. Yeah. And then the last band, Cop Out, we are writing a lot of new music. We're trying to put out some new tunes in the relatively near future. Hopefully, by the end of the year, we'll have some new tunes out. But we also have a tour coming up in July. We're doing a little anti 4th of July run over to Chicago and back.
Wow.
So, um, super excited about that. It's just DIY as fuck, and it's just nice to be getting after doing like so many big tours with bigger bands. It's nice to get back to the place that I feel most comfortable in, like the D-est of DIY.
The
Fucking
floor.
yeah,
Where you're the most comfortable. Probably on the floor.
yeah, yeah. Is there a hole you can put me in? Like that'd be great. Yeah.
Oh God, where's the suffer pillow? I only want to sleep on a suffering pillow. Pillow of suffering.
Yeah.
That's your next band, Pillow of Suffering. Joey, man, words can't express, dude. Honestly, this was such a awesome conversation. Even if nobody fucking watches this or whatever, like, just for me personally, and just in terms of impact, I think you can go ahead and take credit for anything that I managed to do in my life. It's definitely a ripple of when our paths first crossed and all the things that happened over the years. I just think like you're just somebody that has always pushed me in one way or another to try to be better, and this is like how I'm trying to do it. And I just thank you for taking your day off of tour to do this. Unbelievable. Go get a throat lozenge.
I'm gonna go. I slept 2 hours last night,
Oh
so I'm
my
gonna go
God.
back to bed now. But
Nice and
I
crisp.
appreciate your kind words, and I think there was a David Schwimmer quote. David
Uh-oh.
Schwimmer from Friends.
The actor.
He was in he was in a movie about the Holocaust. I can't remember the name of the movie off the top of my head now. Might have been Defiance, maybe. Or
Okay.
it was about the Warsaw Ghetto, and he was a teacher in the movie, and he's teaching children in the ghetto, and the kids are like, "Why the fuck are we learning this shit? Like, we're in a fucking ghetto. We're all going to be executed. Like, what's the point of learning all this shit? Why are we wasting our time?" And the gist of it is like, look, our traditions, our life, our spirituality, our morality, our politics is we're all just like trying to be just in an unjust world.
Mm.
And, I don't know if people listen. I can't control that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're not, and we're irrelevant, and that is what it is. But none of that should change what we're doing. Like it matters as much. We hope it matters to them, but it definitely matters to us. And so, like, our morality and the things we do, they don't just change the people around us. They also reinforce who we are and who we need to be and the things that we're doing. So, like, whether it's seen or whether it's unseen, whether it's semantic or whether it's more direct action or whatever, all of these things, it's really just us figuring out how to be just in an unjust world, and that reverberates hopefully to other people. Would be nice to think that we're true,
Yeah.
but it reverberates in us for sure. And so our choices to do these things and these conversations we have and how much we listen or whatever, they impact us. And I've deeply appreciated this conversation too. It's been very insightful. I appreciate you, and it makes me feel very good to think that I've had some teeny small impact on the righteous life you're trying to live, homie. So thank you for letting me be part of it.
Aw, Joey. Look at you. Let's let's end on this positive note here. We got a real positive tune to end this show.
This is a positive song, Roger. Here you go try to stick me in the fucking negative shit again. This is a positive ass tune. I will I did a podcast where I'll go ahead. I'll introduce this song. I'll
go ahead.
Take your 200th opportunity to fucking hijack your fucking show from you. Sorry. This song from Cop Out is about how futile life is and how much fun we should have while we're living it, and how our community is everything to us, and how we should party with them and have fun. And when the party's over and when it's time to go home, at least we could do is set fire to the police on the way home and fucking leave the world a slightly better place than we found ourselves. So if anything, when you see the cops and you set him on fire, just remind them that you will see them in hell.
All right, this tune is called See You in Hell by Cop Out. Rip on, everybody. Stay creative.